This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
What do NFL scouts like and dislike about the Vols who are up for the draft? We'll tell you next. Welcome into the Sports Source Digital Network. This show is called Next Level, and I'm joined by Vince Ferrara right here. Vince Ferrara, of course, of 99.1 The Sports Animal. Vince, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jeff.
I know you love this time of year.
Yeah.
You take this stuff seriously. I know you talk to scouts, talk to sources with teams and everything. So I wanted to bring you back in and chat about the guys who are going from the Vols into the NFL. We got some that we think will definitely be drafted. We got some that are kind of questionable, and we're going to talk about very quickly, just move through each of these guys, what you're hearing from your sources, what scouts are telling you about what they like, what they don't like. What do these guys have to overcome? What could knock them down? What can move them up? And that's kind of the plan. You good with that?
Yeah, it works for me. I say it all the time. The two of the greatest things in sports, college football, the NFL, those worlds collide during this process, which what makes it fun. And when Tennessee's involved, that's another level.
Yeah, and this year they're doing it at Green Bay, which is it's almost like a college town the way they treat it up there. So It's a kind of cool mix. Let's start. Well, first of all, let me tell you, like, subscribe, and comment. I'm not in the habit of saying that. They tell you, you got to say that constantly. Look, if you like more UT content, if you like more of the guys and gals who are on the Sports Source, then hit like, because what this does is it tells everybody else out there, it tells YouTube to send it out to more people. So it helps us if you hit like, if you subscribe to the channel, you'll know when we put stuff up. You go ahead and comment. Maybe you disagree with what the scouts are telling Vince. You disagree with our opinion. Maybe you agree. You tell us. All right, let's start with James Pearce.
Yeah.
Supposed to be the first guy to go. However, I saw Dane Brugler, who's famous for doing his beast. He did for The Athletic. He puts together this massive tome of information on every player out there. He did his latest mock draft this week. James Pearce was going 52nd, middle of the second round. Now, when the season started last year, there was talk about him being number one draft pick. So somewhere between 1 and 52, the truth lies. We know he took a hit as soon as the season ended. His stock started to drop a little. He goes to the combine, puts on I think we knew he's got the intent, the speed, all the measurables, puts on a show, starts to right the ship. Now, according to the one guy's plan, it's dropping again. What are you hearing about James Pearce?
Well, obviously what he did at the combine was so impressive, and running that 4.47, that kind of speed coming off the edge. NFL defensive coordinators and head coaches are thinking, man, that can be a difference maker for us. Let's put him outside of on the other side of our other really good pass rusher, and we could really cause some problems. So that speed is big. But then he did all the drills great too. The change of direction so smooth with the hips. So you see the physical traits that are really, really impressive. And he did have production at Tennessee too. When you combine the sacks, the tackles for loss, he's got a really good
pressures
number.
Were up there,
the pressures, when you put all that together, it's more than just the sack number, which is, I think, what a lot of people were fixated on. Oh, his sack numbers weren't that great. He still affected the quarterback, and they are looking at the totality of what he did. Now, those are the whys, the why nots. The biggest thing is the off-the-field questions. It's not how much he meets with the media or anything like that. He likes doing that. It's what is around him, the distractions. How much is he going to be focused? How many resources do NFL teams have to put in to make sure that distractions, the off the field, things like that, don't get in the way of being a professional? Because now you don't have the structure of a college that helps a lot of these guys out. So that's why they have to be alert to those kind of things. So the distraction part of it is one of them. And then on the field, it's the discipline and how much he at times goes off of script and what they are looking for, John. And that happens, I think that impacts the run game maybe more than anything else when he does deviate and kind of does his own thing.
I talked to some people after the season ended who were over there, and I was asking, all right, look, I know Rodney Garner likes to rotate these guys, but Pearce, the number of snaps, if you're going to be the number one player in college football, he didn't get the snaps to do that.
Right.
And I was told, well, part of the reason he wasn't out there, it wasn't just the rotation, it was the fact that he freelances. He freelances more than the coaches would like, and there are times when get your butt off the field for the freelancing. So I do think that's going to be something that teams are going to look at. We're going to talk about best case, worst case. I will say this. this is not what round he'll go in, but best case for him, you kind of mentioned it. If some team is looking at him and saying, we're going to make him our pass rush specialist, that concerns me. If he winds up on a team like the Eagles or the Giants in 2007 that has 3-4 good guys on that defensive line, and he's a piece and all the pressure's not on him, and he's playing X number of snaps, not the whole, I think that's the best fit. Rather than somebody's like, we got no pass rush, we're going to put all our eggs in this guy's basket.
Right.
I wouldn't like him there. But if you have a team that's got 2 or 3 of these guys and you can rotate him in, hey, that's worth the pick to me.
Well, your example, the Eagles, is one of them, the Chiefs. I mean, there's teams that have multiple pass rushers, but if you're one guy, yeah. And then another thing is not everybody, if you view him as a pass rush specialist, that kind of brings your value down to where you're going to draft a guy like that. You want 3 down guys if you're taking them in the middle of the first round. So, and then another thing is what's on the board at the time. Like they have these guys on their board, but what if all the other top pass rushers are gone when you get there?
Yes.
So
and
maybe
you need one. Somebody goes on a run. Yeah.
Right. He's not necessarily off of everybody's board. For some, he's going to be there, but docked a little bit. Then when you get to the point of picking, do you say, all right, let's roll the dice on him. It's a good value spot where our draft position is, or do we move back and see if he's still there, and then we feel better about taking him? So it's not a yes or no with him. It's a mix, and it's based on if you're willing to take those chances with the questions that you have about him.
Best case, worst case. I said before the season he was the first pick. Now you've got some people saying 52nd. I would think best case, worst case, probably 12 to 32. I think he'll be first round, but I don't think he's going to be near the top. But I'll put him up higher than that 52 because all it takes is one. All it takes is one team to say, I'm overlooking that other stuff. We need a guy. As you say, we need a guy, and the other 4 we were going to wait on, they're gone. We didn't expect it. I think he's going to be first round. My guess is middle of first round.
Yeah, you actually hit the ceiling exactly where I have it, and it's 12, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. That's a team that would make a lot of sense. He visited them in the 30 visits, those pre-draft visits that are private with the teams. I think he's going to go in the first round too, but I still would put a floor of 54 for him. Now, I don't expect that to happen, but sometimes guys do drop in the draft. So that's the Green Bay Packers, another team that he has done a visit with. So, yeah, it's a wide range.
Right.
I still think he's somewhere in that early 20s, somewhere early to mid-20s in the first round.
All right. Very good. Let's move on to Dylan Sampson next. Okay. Tennessee running back, had an unbelievable season last year. Hasn't gotten a ton of hype in terms of the NFL stuff, even though, he's a guy that can do a couple of things. When he arrived at Tennessee, those first couple of years, everyone was wowed by his speed, his big playability. Last year, I wondered publicly going into the season, can he be a workhorse? Well, he added pounds to his body. Mm-hmm. I think it cost him some of the explosiveness because you didn't see a lot of the long, flashy runs that you had in previous. But he became a guy who could carry it 20 times a game, 25 times a game, and could carry guys on his back. So if you're the NFL, you could look at it and say, we could use him like this. We could have him take some pounds off and use him as a fast guy. I think he's got some options there. But that's my opinion. You've talked to scouts. What do they think? Why would people be looking at Dylan Sampson? And why might he not be that high?
Well, you hit on the productivity that you outlined there is phenomenal. They love him. They love the intangibles, the leadership qualities. When you talk to him, and he's talked to everybody. A lot of these teams do Zooms too. So even if you don't go to those 30 visits, it's a thing where you're talking to almost everybody at least on a Zoom. And he's a guy that makes an impact. You're like, man, I really love the guy.
His teammates constantly referred to him as the leader of that team, which is something. If teams are concerned about James Pearce and what he's going to do, this is the opposite of that.
Right.
This is the complete polar opposite of, this guy's going to be good in the room.
No question about it. And he was willing to be a leader from the jump, which I think that would be appealing to the NFL. Like, man, this guy's going to come here. He's not going to be afraid. He's going to help our room be better.
Right.
So he does have good speed as well. The drawback with him that gives people a little bit of pause in the NFL is his size. Now, you mentioned that he did add some muscle, some weight, but it's the height, which is 5'9"-ish, and he's from a pass protection standpoint, that's where they worry if he can hold up. You want a guy that can be at least a 3-down back. And if you're going to be, say, a 3rd-down specialist back as a backup, you better be able to pass protect. And I think he got better at that at Tennessee, but they wonder with the physicality and the size that you're having to block those big guys on defense. That's the little holdup. If he was a little bit bigger, I know several teams love him, but if he was a little bit bigger, I think we'd absolutely be talking about him as a surefire 2nd round.
I wonder also, he did have some fumbling issues at Tennessee this past year. There's going to be some teams that look at it and go, I don't want to draft a guy who fumbled as much as he did. Now, it wasn't like it was every game, but he had a first drive issue there where it was the fumble on the first drive for like 3 games in a row.
Right.
So it wasn't 12 games, but it was too much that anyone would like. So I think that's going to hurt him a little bit with some teams. You're going to have some coaches who, hey, protecting the ball is number one. Those guys who would never draft the quarterback who takes chances are the same guys that was never going to draft a running back who put it on the ground a lot. So I think that could hurt him as well with some teams, not overall.
Right.
Best case, worst case.
Best case, I would say bottom of the 2nd round. Honestly, I hear a little bit more bottom of the 3rd to early 4th. So I will say a range, a ceiling of 2nd round, probably lower end of the 2nd round. And then, and some of that depends on how early those running backs start going.
Right.
How quickly does the team jump on Ashton Genty from Boise State? And is there a run of those in the 1st round and where you're like, all right, you need to start getting kind of these 2nd level guys where Sampson is at. And then on the bottom end, I would say 4th round. And that may be, hey, that's where you often get a lot of the great running backs, 3rd and 4th round. If those guys haven't gone, there's still a number of them on the table, and people have their style preferences and maybe go different directions. That's where maybe you could see him fall there. He's a better player than that, and fans are going to scream, "Oh, 4th round, you got to be kidding me!" But I think that's would be worst case scenario.
The thing that works well for him, is the fact that Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry kind of rebirthed the running back position last year, because it had been, you'd seen that position kind of, there were more and more teams that were just going small on the defensive side because it's all the passing game now.
Right.
Now it may be a time when teams are saying, okay, now everybody's gone small on the other side, so let's get back to the run game a bit, which would be a good thing for running backs all across the board, including Dylan Sampson.
Yeah.
Omar Norman-Lott, what are you hearing?
He's a really interesting guy, very intriguing to the NFL. He's taken a bunch of visits. He's taken 12 of those 30 visits, private visits with different teams. So a lot of teams are bringing him in and really intrigued by him. He's a really good pass rusher, and it's the motor he plays with, being a really good pass rusher. Those things are positives. The negatives would be, the drawbacks would be, is he an every down guy? And I think maybe some schemes are a little bit more to his style than others. So maybe that takes some teams off of the table. So, or at least brings them down. So because of that, I think there's still a wide range on Omar Norman-Lott. But there's a lot of teams that are intrigued by him because of the motor and how he rushes the passer. Here's another thing. You mentioned it before with James Pearce Jr. Didn't play as many snaps. I mean, he was average like 20 snaps a game. So people wonder, okay, in the NFL, when we need you to hold up against bigger guys, can you hold up? Am I taking a guy that has to be a situational guy? Some teams will probably view him as, yes, he has that potential. Others are going to say, a guy that we can't play more than a down or two, we got to bring kind of down our board. Yeah. We'd like him, but maybe we take him lower. So there is a little bit of differing opinions on him.
Yeah, and to me, I've always liked the fact, even you go back to Arizona State before he came here, you're looking at the sack numbers from the defensive tackle position, and that was 3 years ago. And I said, this is great to get with, because those are hard to find. Yeah. The guys in the NFL, if you're a defensive tackle who can get to the passer, you get bumped up a level. You're bumped up a level. So I think, I'm not a scout, but my guess is that's going to counteract. They'll find one team that says, oh, wait, he can get to the passer. Let's go. I think he'll go higher than people think. We'll see. But what's your best case, worst case for him?
I would not be surprised if he's the second Vol taken ahead of Sampson. And you see it more in some mocks. I don't think it's going to be the range of, hopping James Pearce Jr. or anything. But I would say middle of the second round to maybe middle of the fourth round. That's the range. But he is drawing a lot of attention and is an intriguing guy, especially like you said. It just takes one, and I think there's definitely more than one that like him.
Yeah, because there aren't many of those guys that are available that can really rush the passer from that position. And everybody would love to have one. So I think somebody's going to we'll see, watch him go in the 5th round, but I'm going to guess 2nd to 3rd round for him. I just think that's a bit of a unicorn. We've got a big guy that size. You're right, the number of plays is going to be an issue, but so many guys would love to have a pass rushing defensive tackle that I think that helps him a lot.
Yeah, not everyone will dock him for that, but it's just something they note as a question mark. Sure. Is this something we project he can do more, or is he not going to?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, for anybody that takes offense at us, what you're repeating from scouts or what we're giving as opinions, go pick up a draft guide and read what they said about Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Arms not strong, too slow, happy feet. There's a million knocks on these guys that the NFL finds, and they all write them down. And that's what's funny is everybody's got a list this long of stuff that's good and a list this long of stuff that's bad, and it's all just a crapshoot. You got to land in the right spot.
And to your point, there's a long list of both. It's not just criticizing them.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Hey, remember, like, subscribe, comment. If you disagree, tell us where you think these guys are going to go. All right. I want to move on to the next guy. It's Dante Thornton, who never was able to put it together at Oregon, never put it together at Tennessee. He's got all the measurables. He was one of the fastest guys at the combine. So that always catches people. There's going to be some team that's like, they always grab the 1st or 2nd fastest guys. Doesn't matter if they can catch a football. They could have feet for hands, but look how fast he is.
Right.
So I think that's helped him, obviously, those measurables. What are the scouts saying, though? Is there a concern that, he's got the measurables, but where was the production?
Yeah, it did improve in year 2 in the system, which we've seen from Josh Heupel wide receivers, right?
But it still wasn't. I don't think he hit the ceiling of what is possible. You look at his speed, you look at his size. Should have been better than what it was, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you mentioned size. That's one of the things. I mean, he is tall, but he's still pretty lanky. So how is he going to hold up from that standpoint? But the speed is elite. I mean, look at what Xavier Worthy did with the Chiefs last year, and you see more of that. And then also another thing that they like about him is he put in the work. I mean, he stayed clean. He put in the work, and he did make an improvement in year 2 at Tennessee. And then I thought he caught the ball well in the pre-draft process really well at the Combine and in Knoxville for Pro Day. Now, the things that they wonder about besides the size is the offense. He didn't run the full route tree. They want to know, all right, he's raw. Yeah. How is he going to be able to adapt to all the routes that we're going to run on the NFL level? So being that, taking him to that level, that's a question. And the other thing was the hands. I think he's answered that in the pre-draft process, but that's still something that I think some might wonder with him because of what happened at Tennessee at times.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the problem there is you can look at the Combine or you can go watch game film.
Right.
And there were times where he had the dropsies.
Yeah.
For some reason, it just didn't get all put together. And the fact that we're still talking about him being raw after 3 years of college football, that's interesting. Now, you mentioned something about the route tree that you always get with the veer and shoot system that Josh Heupel runs. You used to get it with the Baylor guys that Art Briles kicked out of this system. I think it's going to continue to be a question. And just taking it back toward UT, I don't know how much it helps him that Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt came out 2 years ago. They've had the capacity to play 2 17-game seasons each, so that'd be 68 games max. And combined, they have 750 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not great. And I think that Tennessee needs someone to break through at the next level to help recruit in the future.
Yes.
Because eventually that's going to be negative recruited against you. And the NFL teams need to see that, oh, look, here's a guy who came out of that system, tore it up. So they're desperate to find one of those guys. But the fact that Hyatt and Tillman have not turned it on yet after 2 years, I don't know how much that's going to help Dante Thornton. I think that may hurt him.
Yeah, and I can hear people that are watching say, well, he's with two of the worst franchises and a bunch of terrible quarterbacks in the Giants and the Browns. Yeah. But no, absolutely, from Tennessee's standpoint, they can put out all the sheets they want of the draft picks, but they have to be successful with those draft picks at that position. Quarterback would be helpful also in that in the future. But yeah, I think it would really help Tennessee if they could break through. And Thornton is going to be kind of a system guy. Which types of teams would be willing or want that speed guy, need that, and would want to put in the work for a guy that they might deem not as polished as maybe some other guys.
Best case, worst case?
I'd say probably 4th round. I've seen him as high as 3 in a mock, but that to me is a little bit too much. Yes, great speed, good pre-draft process. I think that's still a little bit high. And then I'd say on the low end from a floor, 6th round for Dante Thornton.
Okay. We got that's the first 4 guys I wanted to go through. Was that 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we've got several other guys who could go, but I want to lump them all together. We don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but that's Bru McCoy, Elijah Simmons. Who else we got? Omari Thomas, and then if there's anybody else out there, what are you hearing from the scouts? Which of those guys you would think Bru McCoy may be you've seen him mocked in a couple of places, so he may be the next guy up. But in terms of what the people you've talked to, which of those guys is most likely to get drafted?
Yeah, and talking to the scouts, I think it's Elijah Simmons that would be the next most likely to be taken. I think he's a safer pick than a Bru McCoy. Bru has, when he was at Tennessee, struggled with the injuries, and he's still dealt with them in the pre-draft process. So that's been a setback for him. Yeah. At Mobile at the Senior Bowl, wasn't able to finish through there, and the medicals at times with teams, haven't always checked out 100%. So the biggest question for him has still been there for him. Chance maybe late because of all the character, the hands, the leadership. I mean, he brings a lot of things you like. Size for contested catches.
He's more of a possession guy, though. He's not the burner who's just going to get drafted because of his speed and nothing else.
Right, but that might still work. There could still be a role for him and see how it goes. So, but there is a little bit more of the ifs with him. So I think that's why he's a late round to undrafted. I would put Omari Thomas in that category too. Again, love the intangibles, the coachability, those kinds of good size, but the productivity was up and down. Late round to undrafted. Then Cooper Mays. I think with him.
I think I said Cade Mays. Yeah.
Yeah, Cade Mays might help.
I didn't say Kevin Mays. So.
That's true, but Cade Mays did a great job as a starting center with Carolina, so maybe that helps a little bit. But Cooper's not as big, and so experience, but the size is still small for an NFL center. But Elijah Simmons, his ability to eat up blocks, his size, he didn't show up overweight during any of the pre-draft process at the combine. It was at 325.
It's great for a guy his size.
Absolutely, because there was questions of, hey, is he going to put on weight? No, he lost weight, and he did a great job, mobile in the process, really engaging guy through the interviews. He's an intriguing guy, probably still a 2-down guy, but late in the draft, if you're talking, 5 to undrafted, I think there's value there in him. He's, I think, the safest of that next group of guys that could be maybe a 5th guy drafted from Tennessee.
Vince Ferrara, thank you very much. I tell you what, I'm going to call you back over after the draft. We can look at where these guys landed, who got in the best places. I know you love this time of year, so enjoy it. It's your Christmas.
Thanks. Anytime, John.
Thanks, bud. And thank you for watching. I tell you what, I'll come over here. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. Let us know what you think of this. Let us know where you think these guys are going to go in the NFL draft. Are we wrong? Am I wrong about saying Tennessee needs a breakthrough at receiver? You can come on and cuss me in the comment section. We'll see you on the next level here on the Sports Source Digital Network.